What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Mock Draft Guy YouTube channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to some hot takes for the 2024-25 NFL season. So the way that I got these 15, I feel like 15 is a nice round number. The way I got these 15 hot takes was from NFL fans on Twitter. So if you want to be featured, this is something that's going to be a staple in my channel from here on out. I did one during the draft season for the 2024 NFL draft, and it did really well, and people really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with it. So I'm going to be doing this probably a few times a season, maybe in the beginning or the off season like this one. Then I'll be doing one midway through the season as things start to change. And then I'll probably be doing one for the draft as well, like I did last year. So be sure to follow me on Twitter. I will link it in the pinned comment below if you want to be featured on that, or if you just want to follow me. It's my Twitter is mostly satirical for the most part, but I do tweet some interesting stuff every now and then. So, like I said, if you want to be featured in a future video for your hot takes, please follow me over there. I will link it in the pinned comment below. But I got 15 takes for you guys. So we're going to roll right into it right now, with the first one being from Charlie Prio. I hope I'm saying that name right. He says that Drake May shouldn't touch the field in year one. From the very poor surrounding cast to his inconsistencies in his footwork and accuracy, it is a match for disaster. Please let him redshirt. Now, Charlie, I usually agree with this for the most part with raw prospects, but I don't know. Drake May is tough for me. Do I think he's going to start the season? I do. I just think that there's a couple aspects to this. I feel like if you're drafting someone in the top five, a quarterback in the top five, maybe even the top 10, that's someone that you're going to want to plug and play as quick as possible. What was the last time that we saw a rookie quarterback redshirt his entire rookie season, essentially? It was Patrick Mahomes. That's really the only notable one that I could think of that sat for most of his rookie year. What did Justin Herbert sit? Did he even sit any games? I don't think so. It was supposed to be Tyrod Taylor, and Justin Herbert got thrown in there, I'm pretty sure. But I don't think that happens in today's NFL. I can't see a world where this actually happens. Drake May does have some inconsistencies in his footwork and his accuracy as well. I don't think his surrounding cast is as poor as people think it is. I don't think it is great, but Javon Baker, having Javon Baker out there and also having and Jalen Polk as well, with Kendrick Bourne, it isn't as great of a supporting cast as you would think, but it's not the worst supporting cast that I've seen. Yeah, two rookie wide receivers, sure. They also have Ramondre Stevenson, who is a good running back. I wouldn't consider him, a great running back for the most part, but I think the supporting cast, the offensive line has improved. I wouldn't say substantially, a little bit from last year, but I wouldn't say that this is a supporting cast that I'm not confident in Drake May starting behind. He's going to have to go through growing pains at some point. Sitting and redshirting is really nice when you have someone like Andy Reid as your head coach, but having Gerard Mayo as more of a defensive-minded head coach, especially being a rookie head coach as well, is something that I don't really know. How much are you going to learn? I think there's no way that Drake May doesn't start week one. Now, can he be benched at any point in the season? I definitely think that's a possibility throughout poor play, but he's going to have to learn and go through those growing pains just like any other top quarterback prospect. So we're going over to Keith Coe. I'm assuming that's how you say that because that's not a chief, it's a K. Keith Coe will go with says, JJ McCarthy, we got a 3-for-1 special with this one. JJ McCarthy is rookie of the year. The Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills missed the playoffs, and the Commanders win the NFC East. I'll rapid fire these here. JJ McCarthy winning Rookie of the Year isn't so far-fetched in my opinion because of the surrounding cast that he has. He has a decent enough offensive line. He's got a decent running game now with Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, Ty Chandler. He has an insane receiving options with Justin Jefferson, with TJ Hawkinson, with Jordan Addison as well. Yeah, I don't think that that's as far-fetched as people think. If I was a betting man, I would say Caleb Williams, only because his supporting cast is pretty dang good as well. And I think Caleb Williams is a little bit more pro-ready than JJ McCarthy, but I don't think that's as hot of a take as some people would think. Dallas and Buffalo missing the playoffs. I think Dallas missing the playoffs is a little bit more realistic than the Bills. And I know that's crazy saying that because Dallas plays in the NFC and the AFC is loaded. But with the Jets being at full strength right now and the Miami Dolphins being as potent as they are on offense, I think there's a real scenario where the Bills end up third in the division and missing the playoffs just because of how many other teams in other divisions are so good. I mean, the NFC North itself could legitimately have 4 playoff teams. So that is a real possibility. Dallas as well, I think could be a real possibility. But a lot of people I feel like are just saying that because of the running game. I really don't think this roster got that much worse other than the fact that they're going to have to rely on Deuce Vaughn, Rico Dowell, and Ezekiel Elliott as their running game. They still have, in my opinion, the second best wide receiver in football in CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott is a heck of a regular season quarterback. I don't really see them missing it, but I could see it. Same thing with the Bills. Like I think when you have Josh Allen as your starting quarterback, he's going to win you a lot of games by himself. So regardless of the supporting cast around him, I do think that both of these teams will probably make the playoffs, but I could definitely see a world where they both miss it. And then the Commanders winning the NFC East really all depends on how that defense bounces back, and if Jaden Daniels can take that step right away. I don't see that. I do think that the Commanders have the third best team in the NFC East. Uh, Maybe they could sneak into the playoffs as a 7 or a 6. I don't see them winning the NFC East, though. Definitely not. Next one here we have from a channel supporter as well, and someone I consider an internet friend, Michael Marlo here. The Cardinals come second in the NFC West. Rams fall off a bit due to tough schedule, plus losing Aaron Donald means the defense will drop off. Trey White's season-ending injury, Game 3, turns their defense into a top 10 worst in football, 7-10. Cardinals go 9-8. All right, this is twofold. I agree and disagree with basically both things that he said. Cardinals coming second in the NFC West. I wouldn't say I agree with that. I do think 9-8 or 8-9 is certainly possible for the Arizona Cardinals. I thought they absolutely killed it in the draft, and I think Kyler Murray is being severely disrespected this offseason. I mean, Arizona was significantly better. Their offense was significantly better with him at the helm last year when he came back. So I could see them being better than people expect them to be. And I've said that before in my predictions video. I believe I actually have them in third place in the NFC West at 8-9. 7-10 for the Rams. I don't think so. The Rams are my dark horse Super Bowl contender out of the NFC West and out of the NFC in general. I don't think the Rams defense is going to fall off a bit. Now, granted, of course, the middle of the defense will fall off a bit because you have quite possibly the best defensive tackle in NFL history is now retired, but they did such a good job of adding players around him. Right away, you think they added Braden Fisk, Tyler Davis, Jared Verse to an already young, studded defense on the defensive line. I don't think that they're going to miss too much, to be quite honest with you. They have Kobe Turner in the middle of that defense who looked more than ready to step up in the shoes of Aaron Donald. I mean, the most monumental shoes you could possibly try and fill on a defensive line. But he had a fantastic rookie season, 9 sacks. I believe he was 3rd or 4th in Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. I don't think that, I mean, that secondary last year was pretty bad, and the Rams still made the playoffs. Even if Trey White gets hurt, I still don't see their defense collapsing because of one player. I think Trey White's contract was more of a, high risk, lowish reward for the most part because he's coming off of devastating injuries back-to-back years. But I think he's only going to make that defense better for whatever he's going to contribute. Yeah, I don't see the Rams going 7-10. On the contrary, I think it's 10-7, maybe even more, to be quite honest with you. All right, now we got Matthew Hug 25028. Will Levis, obviously, but I always thought that Will Levis should have instantly had a Levi's sponsorship or endorsement. I mean, it just writes itself right there. Anyway, Will Levis turns into a top 10 to top 15 quarterback in year 2, and DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley are both 1,000-yard receivers. I don't think that this is far-fetched at all because Will Levis clearly showed something last year, not only to us as NFL fans, but to the Tennessee Titans enough to completely invest this offseason into him. With the 7th overall pick, they took J.C. Latham. They signed Lloyd Cushenberry. They signed Calvin Ridley. They signed Tony Pollard. They added a bunch of offensive weapons around Will Levis. I don't see a way where if he has a good season, he can't be. Maybe not top 10, definitely top half of the NFL, definitely top 15, top 16. And D Hop and Ridley both having 1,000-yard receiving seasons isn't something that's too far fetched either. Even if both guys miss a couple games here and there, the mark of 1,000 yards is a little less impressive than it used to be, especially with the way that the NFL is a pass first league now. But with Derrick Henry out of town, having two pretty decent running backs in Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard, both of them really being more of the dual threat, I think we're going to see a lot more passing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Will Levis is a top 15 quarterback at the end of the year and D Hop and Ridley both have 1,000-yard seasons. Blitz Sports Media here. This is the one that I really wanted to touch upon because I definitely agree in some way, shape, or form. He says the Jaguars missed the playoffs and Trevor Lawrence proves he isn't a top quarterback in the league. Now, I went on record saying that I feel like the Trevor Lawrence contract is more of a, hey, here you go, we're going to pay you, don't prove us wrong. More of a, hey, you deserve this, so we're going to give it to you. Because to me, the Jaguars are in a really difficult situation because there's nothing that really warrants not trusting Trevor Lawrence with your franchise from here on out. He took them to the playoffs. He's a pretty decent player. His rookie year, he was terrible. He had Urban Meyer. His second year, he was unbelievable. Last year, he got up to a really bad start. Second half of the year, he was really good for the most part, at least sabermetric numbers wise. He was really, really good. So, there's no reason not to. The amount of money he got was completely egregious. It's just unfortunate that that's the market. I personally wouldn't have paid Trevor Lawrence, what was he get, $55 million a year or something absolutely insane like that. But yeah, I would have to agree that if now you're getting paid the big bucks, now I'm going to have a certain expectation on you to lead this team more than your rookie contract. Now you're making a significant chunk of the cap. You're making almost a third of what the cap is. You have to be that catalyst that gets us to the playoffs. The Jaguars really don't have any excuses, in my opinion, to not make the playoffs. I know that the Houston Texans are probably going to be the kings of that division for a little bit longer now with having such a stacked roster and having CJ Stroud having such an amazing rookie season. But yeah, I'm going to agree that if maybe I'm spinning the words a little bit, I'm going to say that if the Jaguars miss the playoffs, Trevor Lawrence is basically proving that he is not that guy and he's not that top quarterback in the league. And the Jaguars are just going to continuously pay him to hope that he will make good on his generational hype. But yeah, I'm going to have to agree with this one a little bit. Moving on to my friend Isaac here, Football Fun Podcast. He says Russell Wilson will be benched before the season's end for Justin Fields, and Mike Tomlin will still get at least 9 wins or an 8-1 season. Yes. If there's 3 things that are certain in life, it's death, it's taxes, and it's Mike Tomlin taking the Steelers to a over 500 record. That's basically it. So that I completely agree with. Russell Wilson being benched, yeah, I mean there is got to be monumental pressure on Russell Wilson. I'm not talking about from a fiscal or financial standpoint because he's making the league minimum because he's getting paid so much money from the Denver Broncos. That is not something that I think is weighing on his mind. Can Russ still cook? Can Russ still? I thought Russ was pretty dang good last year. I just think that Sean Payton had it in his mind already that Russell Wilson was not the guy for him, so he was going to send him out of town regardless. He could have thrown for 40 touchdowns and taken the Denver Broncos to the playoffs. I don't think he would have been the starting quarterback this year for the Denver Broncos because that's not what Sean Payton wants. And Sean Payton is actually one of my least favorite guys in the NFL, so I'm just going to keep that to myself for the most part. But yeah, I think Steelers fans are rough for the most part. They're so passionate. They're so loyal. They're those blue collar Yinzer workers. I think that if Russell Wilson struggles at any point, Justin Fields is going to be right on his heels waiting to take that spot. And then you got to figure that if Justin Fields plays well, Russ is basically out of a starting spot. This is such an interesting scenario for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they essentially have 2 guys that you could just kind of flip-flop each game and start because I feel like Russ isn't backup caliber yet, in my opinion. And Justin Fields is one of those guys that if, he's got all the talent in the world, super athletic. If he can just flip a switch in his mind and get right in some areas of his game, he could be a very, very good starting quarterback for a long time in this league. So they have a very unique situation here with 2 guys that you could legitimately make arguments for being the starting quarterbacks. So yeah, I think if Russ struggles at any point, Justin Fields is that the fans and Justin Fields are going to be right on Mike Tomlin's heels to make a change. Moving on to another buddy of mine on Twitter, Ron Karras here. Christian McCaffrey, CMC will fall out of the top five. So, what I assume he means by this is Christian McCaffrey will fall out of the top five running backs in the league. Ron, love you, dude. Gonna have to disagree with you on this one. We saw last year, as long as Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy, he is 100% the catalyst of that team. They're also trying to help him for the most part. They still have Elijah Mitchell. They drafted Isaac Guriendo as well, someone that's probably going to be a nice little change of pace back, an absolute speedster back there for the San Francisco 49ers. They just gave him $19 million over the next couple of years. I don't really see a way that Christian McCaffrey falls off. It's just such an offensive player friendly system. And McCaffrey proved last year that he could stay healthy. He was unbelievable last year, playing basically. Did he play every single game? I don't know if he did. He maybe missed one or two, but that's fine in my opinion. He was injury prone, and now he's getting healthier, and he's proving how much of an unbelievable X factor that he is when he's healthy. So if he has another healthy season, I don't see any way where he's not the top running back in football still after 2024. Nobody clash. T. Higgins, I'm assuming this guy is a Bengals fan. T. Higgins gets traded for multiple late round picks before the trade deadline. Yeah, this is something that I don't think is as hot as people think as well. T. Higgins did sign a 1-year contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. Sure, if things aren't going their way, if Joe Burrow gets injured again, and they're grasping and clawing and fighting for a playoff spot around that trade deadline, or if they're under 500, I could easily see a scenario where T. Higgins maybe even fetches a day 2 pick, maybe a late second, an early third round, and then multiple late round picks. Yeah, 100%, especially with the contract situation. I'm surprised that he even signed a 1-year contract extension. I thought he wasn't going to report. I thought he was going to hold out. But I think players see how holding out does really no good for you or the organization. So you're going to get your money regardless at some point. But yeah, I could see this where if the Bengals fall off, or if Joe Burrow's injured, or they're just not playing as well, and T. Higgins wants out, I could easily see them moving on from him at the trade deadline. You don't see too many humongous names being traded at the trade deadline so often. So that would be certainly a blockbuster. Fashanu season, Rogers to Garrett here says, Sam Howell is the Seahawks starter by the end of the season. I think you can make a claim that Sam Howell should be the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season. That's just me. I said it before last year that the contract was super specific with Geno Smith. They were rewarding him for his Pro Bowl season where he was unbelievable, but it was a 3-year, $105 million contract with $51 million of that against the cap in the first year. So essentially they're paying him peanuts when it comes to a quarterback salary after that first year. So, even if Geno Smith is the starter, Sam Howell is someone that, in a similar situation to Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, as soon as Geno starts playing bad, or he goes through a bad period of play, Sam Howell is going to be that guy that's right on his heels, that's going to want to play. And the same thing for Steelers fans goes for Seahawks fans. They're so passionate. They're so unbelievable of a fan base that they're going to be vocal, and they're going to say, you know what, this Geno Smith thing isn't working. It was fun a couple of years ago. The NFL is a what have you done for me lately league. If Geno Smith is playing terrible, no one is going to turn around and go, hey, you got to give him a chance. He was great 2 years ago. We already saw a massive drop-off in his play from 2 years ago to last year. So if you're dropping off even further than that, then you're not even worth the contract that you signed. So Sam Howell is the starter by the end of the season is something I could definitely see. I'm sure most people could probably see that. RS Swimmer 84 says Brandon Dorless leads the Falcons in sacks. Jaden Daniels leads all rookie quarterbacks in starts won. Dolphins are the only team above 500 in the AFC East. Now, the first two aren't crazy, so I'm not really going to comment. The reason I screenshotted this and I highlighted it is because of the last one here. Dolphins are the only team above 500 in the AFC East. That, to me, is super interesting, because I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say, oh, as a Jet fan, oh, I can't believe you'd say that. The healthy Jets have the best overall roster in the AFC East, which I do believe is true. But it's the Jets. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's a 40-year-old quarterback. There's no guarantee that he plays the whole season healthy. So there's a very real possibility, just like last year, where the Jets have all these high hopes. Rodgers is out for a significant amount of time, even with Tyrod Taylor being one of the best backups in football. I don't think that he is on the level of Aaron Rodgers where he will be able to win football games on his back. So that's a very real possibility. Same thing with the Bills. There is a chance of a catastrophic drop off. I don't think it's likely. And then the Patriots being the youngest and the most underdeveloped team, I expect them to go, at best 7-10, 6-11, something like that. But the Dolphins themselves better watch out because on the defensive side, they lost quite a lot, especially Christian Wilkins. They did add Kendall Fuller on the back end, which is huge with Jalen Ramsey. That's big, but defensive line is going to be a real issue. Offensive line is going to be a real issue as well. So you got to win. Games are still won and lost in the trenches. So the Dolphins might be a team that's a surprise 9-8 or 8-9 at the end of the season. But yeah, that is an interesting one, and that's why I wanted to highlight it for sure. Ben Holloway said Seattle wins the NFC West. That would be pretty crazy, in my opinion. There would have to be. This isn't me crapping on the Seattle Seahawks because I really do think their problems lie in the quarterback situation. I don't think that Geno Smith is that guy that can take you to the playoffs like he did a couple years ago. I don't think Sam Howell is that guy that's going to play clean enough football throughout the entire year that is going to put you in a winning scenario all the time to win the NFC West. Unless there's a massive injury to Matthew Stafford or Brock Purdy or, one of those big time players, I really don't see a way where Seattle doesn't finish third or fourth in this division this year. I think Mike McDonald is going to be a fantastic head coach. I think they need time to gel. Adding Byron Murphy helps a ton in the middle of that defense. I think that they do need plenty of time to kind of come together as a cohesive unit. So to me, I'd be super surprised if they even made the playoffs. That would be unbelievable development for year one, but I do think they need a year of development. It's tough. You had a head coach for so long. He was so successful. It's a new era. It's going to take time to adjust. So I wouldn't be surprised if they finished last in the NFC West. I would be shocked if they won it. And I had to cut off the name for this one. I don't remember. It was Billdozer was his name. He's a follower of mine. I had to cut his name off because I couldn't fit the whole thing in the screen. But he said the Giants will finish with the worst record and end up blowing up the entire thing next year. That is something that I could totally see. I'm not even going to really comment on that. Running it back with Daniel Jones was more of a financial necessity than anything. So I could definitely see them having the number one overall pick. Marvin Harrison Jr. is likely offensive rookie of the year. Yeah, to me, it's like a 4-horse race between Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and JJ McCarthy. In my personal opinion, that is something that I don't think is very hot. Laiatu Latu will win Defensive Rookie of the Year with double-digit sacks next season. I actually don't think that that's too hot either. I think Latu was far and away the best edge rusher in the entire draft class, and I think he fell into a really, really great situation because of the talent around him. You have Kwity Paye, you have DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart. You have a really, really nice defensive line that's going to afford you a lot of one-on-one opportunities. 6'5", 260 pounds, lightning quick with his moves as well. He's got a great pass rushing bag. I could easily see Latu being the only defensive player from this draft class that has double-digit sacks in his rookie year. So I like this take a lot. Armando Campos said, Kirk Cousins gets traded to the New York Jets after Rodgers gets injured early this season and they make the playoffs. Now, if you would have asked me like a couple months ago before the NFL draft, I would have been like, what is this guy smoking? That is insane. And it's still insane. Let's not get that wrong. With the Michael Penix Jr. thing, trading Kirk doesn't seem as far-fetched as it did right before they signed him. But yeah, I can't see this happening. I mean, the Jets paid Tyrod Taylor $9 million a year to be their backup quarterback. They also have Jordan Travis as a third-string developmental quarterback. I think that all hell would break loose. That is essentially the end of Robert Saleh. It's the end of Joe Douglas. It's the end of everyone in the Jets organization if they say, hey, we're 3-3 after 6 games. We have a shot to make it. Let's trade an insane amount of assets, an insane amount of cap space to get Kirk Cousins, just for him also to be coming off of a torn Achilles, I believe it is. So I believe Armando was trolling with this one, but I just wanted to highlight it anyway because, I mean, that would just be the most Jet scenario of all time. So I would say that this is 99% not going to happen because there's always that 1% of Jet fan in me that goes, I could totally see the Jets doing something like that. Oh boy, this is full transparency on this one. Christian Vitale is one of my best friends in my life. I've known him for what am I? I'm 27. I've known him for 24 years at this point. So he said this purely just to piss me off, but I had to highlight it because it's completely egregious. This is the hottest, most egregious take in this entire video. It says Sam Hartman isn't that attractive. 6 out of 10. Completely egregious. Sam Hartman enters the NFL legitimately as one of the top 3 most handsome players in the NFL. If I had to do a ranking, for me, it would be Jalen Hurts number 1, Jimmy Garoppolo number 2, and Sam Hartman number 3. So, I mean, I know that he just said this to get under my skin, but completely egregious of him to say something along those lines. Sam Hartman is absolutely gorgeous. Get out of here, sir. And then the last take that we have from Audible Sports Podcast here, he says the entire AFC North will make the playoffs. Now, I did say this before, kind of in a foreshadowing move to this tweet being the last one here. I think that there is a best chance than ever that we see an entire division make the playoffs. Now, I don't know off the top of my head if that's ever happened. I don't even know if that's possible, to be quite honest with you, in the current playoff format for 4 teams to come out of the same division. That would be crazy because you essentially have one of the top 4 seeds and then all 3 wild card spots. So I'm sure something pretty wacky would have to happen for all 4 teams to make it. But if there is a division in all of football that I think has 3 or 4 playoff teams in it, it's definitely the AFC North. You can make a legitimate argument for any of those 4 teams to win the division or even go that far into the playoffs. The Browns, to me, are a real dark horse. The Steelers are always going to be in the mix. The Cincinnati Bengals, if they could stay healthy, are always going to be Super Bowl contenders. And the same thing with the Baltimore Ravens. Even when the Baltimore Ravens are injured, they are still a Super Bowl contender every year. They're just so well coached. So, yes, I will have to agree with that there is, I'm not going to agree and say that they all make it, but there is a realistic scenario, perhaps more realistic than ever, where we see an entire division make the playoffs. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are the 15 hot takes that I highlighted for the 2024-25 NFL season. Like I said, if you want to follow me on Twitter and be featured in one of these videos in the future, just hit that link below. I don't even know. I'm saying this now. I don't even know if I could put a link, but I will put my username on Twitter there for you guys to check out and follow me. I do follow back in most situations. Don't let this picture here fool you. Sometimes I don't get the notifications, but yes, do follow me on Twitter, and I would love to have you guys feature in the next video the next time I do this. So thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.